Today's musical journey is titled The Importance of Tritones in Functional Music, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Diminished Fifth. To begin to talk about tritone importance, we need to go back to the presentation I gave about tritones many weeks ago. You'll remember I started talking about the augmented fourth or diminished fifth and how it's right between the perfect intervals and it's half step and a half step, and it's very dissonant and unstable interval, and it's equal to six half steps or three whole tones, or the tritone. And I said, no, not a triton, actually that's a trident, but then it looks like a devil's pitchfork, it's a devil's interval, yada yada yada. Then we looked at the ladder of chromaticism and it said it was 6 spaces up or down, and that will be a tritone. Alright. We're back to present day, and I'd like to submit that there is an importance to dissonance in music. If everything was consonant, that would be okay, and actually there's a lot of music today that uses only consonants as its basis, particularly new age music. And to do something like that, all you need to do is play just the black keys on a keyboard, and it'll be very soothing, and nothing really happens. Very pretty. There's no dissonance there anywhere. But in my opinion, dissonance makes you appreciate consonants a little bit more. This would be kind of like a good use of dissonance. If we just had music that was only dissonant, that would be unbalanced, and if it was only consonant, I feel that's unbalanced too. That reminds me of a quote here: "Discord demands a resolution." No, it wasn't by Winston Churchill. I just made it up myself. But I do like that quote because we really want a resolution after we hear a dissonant sound. So after the tritone was dissonant in the Middle Ages, or it was actually banished from the church in the Middle Ages, composers started to get wise to it and started to use it more because it sounded kind of cool. And this is really the basis of function, that certain chords tend to lead to certain other chords. Certain dissonant chords will want to resolve to consonant chords. Okay? Or there's this feeling of pulling you toward something else or pushing you forward. And that's where we get the idea of chord progressions, or how kind of, the journey of music is created through harmonies. Back to the intervals in a major scale. We have a naturally occurring tritone in a major scale. You'll remember that I told you that all of the intervals from do, or 1, will be perfect or major. However, if we looked from fa to ti, that would be, for instance, in C major, that would be from F to B natural. On the white keys, a naturally occurring tritone. Okay. The interesting thing is that the tritone is made up of 6 half steps, or 3 whole tones, like I've told you before. And we know that in a major, well, in music, we've got 12 half steps in an octave. So a tritone is exactly half of an octave. Therefore, from fa to ti is a tritone. But if we flip that, ti to fa is also a tritone. We would consider that a diminished fifth instead of an augmented fourth. So here we have B to F. F to B. Just by flipping that octave, we still have that tritone. Again, here's F to B. If we flip that F, though, we get B to F. The nice thing about that is then we can start to stack our notes, pitches, in thirds, because we have a fifth now. So we could just plug in the middle note there, and all of a sudden we have a properly stacked triad in closed position. Alright, so the tritone is unstable and it wants to resolve. Well, where does it want to resolve to? It wants to resolve by something called contrary motion. Simply put, that means that one of the notes will want to move upward while the other one moves downward. They're moving in opposite directions. In music, we call that contrary motion. So for instance, here is our B to F. If we let the B move up a half step to C, and the F resolve a half step down to E, we'll be moving from Ti and Fa to Do and Mi. Here's what that sound sounds like. Oops, sorry. Okay, so again, Ti to Fa, tritone resolving to Do and Mi, a major third and a quite pleasing sound. One more time. That C to E has a resting point to it. The tritone is present in 3 main chords in a major key. The first one is the one we just built naturally. We had B and F, so we threw the D in the middle. That gives us our 7 diminished triad. It sounds like this. We can also just throw a 7th on top of that and make our 7/7 chord, which we learned was half diminished. And then also that can be part of a 7th chord built on G, the 5/7 chord. And you'll remember from one of the previous presentations that the 5 chord is the only dominant sound in a major key. That tritone occurs between the 3rd and the 7th of the 5 chord. Okay? In all 3 instances, the chords with the tritone resolved back to what we call the tonic triad. Because the tritone wants to go to Do, Mi, we just throw a 5th on top of Do and Mi. We have Do, Mi, So, or 1, 3, 5, which gives us our 1 chord in C major, or any major key, right? And that's really home because that's 1. That's the basis of the key. That's the basis of our tonality. So we would have our 5/7 chord. That 5/7 leads back to 1. And also the 7 resolves back to 1 also. Here's what that looks like. So 5/7 going to 1. That's just what I played. I'll play it one more time for you for fun. Nice sound there. And then either the 7 or the 7 half diminished 7th also will resolve to 1 similarly because they're so similarly pitched. Look at the difference. This one has a G, this one doesn't have a G, and the sound is very similar to the dominant chord. Here's the 5/7 again. That G kind of anchors it a little bit. So there you have it. Dominant chord and diminished chord leading back to the tonic triad or 1 in a major key.